Hello, and welcome to TCN's CloudCast, where we explore the latest trends and innovations in the call center industry. Today, we're thrilled to have Tony Ort, Director of Media Relationships and Ability One Relationships for TCN, here with us to share from his wealth of experience. Let's delve into Tony's background along with TCN's unique approach to IVRs, the dynamics of outsourcing versus in-house customer service, and much more. Welcome to CloudCast, Tony. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Spencer?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. We're super excited to have you today, and we want to get right into it. Could you start off by telling us a little bit about your background and journey in the call center software industry?
Yeah, it's interesting. This will get around to call center software, but it starts back in 1992 when I started working at a newspaper as a district manager. My responsibility was making sure that the newspaper carriers got their newspapers and then delivered their newspapers to all the customers. And then at the end of the delivery cycle, at the delivery deadline, there would be a period of time when people were allowed to call in to customer service and tell them that they didn't get the paper or the paper was wet or damaged or something like that. And then notification would be sent out to the district managers, me and about, I don't know, 15 or 20 other people. And then we would go and redeliver the newspaper. But here's how that process worked. It was 100% human driven and there was no automation. So a customer would call into customer service, about 12 customer service reps would answer a desk phone and find out what the customer's issue was. Then they would type that up, enter it into the computer, and then once every 20 or 30 minutes, a person would get on a radio and dispatch out all the complaints for every district. So they would call out to, the first district, and then they would read off the addresses of the customers that called in, and they needed to be redelivered, or the district manager needed to go visit the customer to take care of a payment issue or something like that. So it was 100% no automation. And it was really interesting because as time progressed, we started seeing pagers. And then as a complaint was entered in, then somebody would be at a keyboard and they would type in the addresses into the pager instead of calling it out over the radio. And then as we got some automation in there, the automation would take the information from the system and send it out to the pagers. And then we got cell phones, and then they would send it out to the cell phones. And then eventually we got IVRs that were interacting with the circ system. And then as soon as a customer called in their complaint, the system would immediately pick it up and send it out to the district manager to go and take care of the issue with the customer. The exciting thing is it just got faster and faster because we went from, humans collecting information and then eventually distributing the information to systems, computers, and back then it was premise-based systems that were grabbing the information and immediately sending it out. So instead of the customer waiting an extra 30 minutes for the next dispatch to go out over the radio, they were getting their paper, 30 minutes faster because the district manager could get the information faster because of the automation. So anyway, that was just kind of something interesting that I thought as time has gone on, and I've been in the business long enough to see all this automation take place, thinking about how much better the customer service has gotten because of the automation.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And it's interesting to see, and it's fascinating to see how quickly we evolved from, purely
Yeah.
manpower, manning the phones and then getting the papers out to automation and computers helping out, and how quickly we are able to, provide that service now. And so that's great.
No, it is. It blows me away how quickly it has gone that was before people had in 92, that was before people had personal computers at home. It was pretty unheard of. We didn't have computers at work at the time. And, then all of a sudden in, I don't know, 94, 95, I started hearing my first group of friends talk about, getting a computer. So yeah, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And now we're talking about AI and all this stuff that the computers are thinking for themselves, and it has been a relatively short period of time for such an evolution.
Right, right. And it seems like you were right there with the customer service from the get-go.
Yeah.
Would you say that, the customer service or the IVR is what inspired you to join TCN? Or, how did you get your start with TCN?
Yeah, so on the newspaper side, I don't know why newspapers have gone away. Well, I do know why. They moved away from retention, and retention was where the newspapers used to really get excited about what TCN had to offer, and that's how I became familiar with TCN as a newspaper guy. I wanted my readers to communicate with me about issues that they have with their delivery, and they could do that when I called them, like for a new start. If as soon as the paper started, I could send out an automated broadcast and ask the customer, "Did you get your paper today?" Just verifying that your first day of delivery was started okay. If their a credit card was declined, I could send out a notification on TCN to ask them to update their credit card so that we didn't have an interruption in service. So all the newspapers were talking about for several years is this new tool that they had available that I was relatively early to find out about and to adopt, using TCN to communicate with my customers for retention, because we were all about touch points. We wanted to touch a customer at the beginning of their subscription cycle and stay in touch with them throughout their subscription cycle for anything that could lead to turnover, lead to subscriber churn. We wanted to reduce churn, and TCN was a great tool. So I was early on using TCN for that, and then back then that was before TCPA. We could use them for sales. We could send out sales opportunities to customers, and customers would opt to restart their subscription, or if it was a customer's payment had declined, we could send out a notification and get them to update their payment and keep the subscription or restart the subscription. But TCPA came along and we had to stop doing sales. We needed to keep it to strictly retention, strictly business related stuff that the customer was already doing business with us. So it just became retention. And anyway, I moved to St. George with Gannett, and I was working in the western region of the United States, based out of St. George. And just happens that TCN's based in St. George. So I let my representative know about my location, and we would meet every once in a while. And one time, he brought a couple of co-founders of the business out just to sit and chat about the newspaper business, and eventually that representative found another job and went away. And one of our longest tenured employees, Dave Beathers, invited me to go to lunch, and I thought it was just another lunch with TCN, and I was always willing to sit down and chat with those guys. And lo and behold, he offered me the opportunity to come and be the newspaper representative for TCN, and I was honestly pretty excited about it, because I just loved the software. I loved the customer service that I'd always gotten, because I mean, those guys were on top of it. And anytime I would call, even if my dedicated representative wasn't available, somebody would answer my call, and they would help me on the spot. They didn't say, get in line. We'll take your number. We'll open a ticket. They just fixed it. And that blew me away. So I already knew that I loved the company. I didn't know what it was going to be like to work for TCN, but that's been one of the best experiences of my life as well.
That's great. We love to hear that. And, I know that you've done some amazing work while you've been on the TCN team. But moving back a little bit to something you touched on when you were discussing your start in the industry with newspapers was IVR. You mentioned IVR, and IVR is an interactive voice response system, and TCN is known for a lot of things, and one of those is their IVR system. TCN has been using it for a while now, and I just wanted you to maybe tell us a little bit about how TCN's version of IVR differs from others in the market.
I went out to lunch with an old friend of mine from the newspaper business in Dayton, Ohio, and we were talking about the IVR. He was using one of the competitors, and there were a couple of newspaper specific IVR business, and the question that he asked me was, well, what's TCN's containment rate? So containment means how many customers stay in the IVR, as opposed to those customers that start in the IVR but then get bumped out to an agent and want to talk to a live agent. The standard is you want your containment to be, relatively high, but you don't want it to be so high that customers get upset. So our competitors built a call flow, which is, the call flow is you call in, you get an introduction, and then from that introduction, you make a choice, and that sends you in one flow or another flow based on what choice you make. So they build these call flows and with a goal of hitting around 50%, because that's what standard newspaper requirements are. They want to try and hit about a 50% containment rate. So anyway, we're sitting at lunch and he says, okay, well, what's TCN's containment rate? And I didn't know how the competitors' systems were built. And I was confused by the question. And as I thought about it, I realized, wait a minute, he has a system that he can't make adjustments to. And that was the big difference that I realized between TCN's IVR and our competitor's IVR, is that they're giving you a template that everybody else is using. And TCN builds an IVR custom for every single client. So I have a client that wants their containment to be around 20 to 30% because they want it to be really easy for their customers to get to a customer service agent. So in the very first menu, it says, if you'd like to speak to a customer service agent, press 0. And, a good chunk of people were pressing 0. And then one of their sister papers, same company, but a different newspaper, wanted their containment to be closer to 70%. So we built the two, and both of them were hitting those containment rates exactly the way they wanted them to. And they were happy with the customer experience that they were offering. So that's the difference. TCN builds an IVR system, a call flow in the IVR for every specific client. Now, that might sound like it's going to take a lot longer, going to be a lot more expensive. There are going to be a lot of downsides, but it doesn't take any longer because we have a template just like the other ones do, because all the other clients provide a template that we can start from. If you're coming over from a competitor, you've got a template that we can start from. All we do is copy that and then make the adjustment that you want to make. And then the other funny thing was, I was at a conference, a newspaper conference, and I was assigned to do a breakout session in a specific room. And about 10 minutes before my session started, I went over to the room to get it set up and get ready for the people to start showing up. One of our competitors was in there with a client, and it was my room. I was on the schedule. I was supposed to be in there at that time, so I went in there and I started setting up and apologized, but they said no problem, go ahead. And I listened to them. It was a competitor talking to a client, and the client was asking for some little change to be made in the call flow. And they were, very agreeable. They were, willing to do whatever they had to do, but it was going to take 2 weeks. Which blows me away, because when a customer calls up and asks for that kind of thing with TCN, for the most part, they can do it on the spot with the customer on the phone without taking any time at all. I don't understand necessarily all the things that go into the technology, into the development of the two different pieces of software, but I know that TCN was built with a lot of flexibility, with the ability to be very flexible. And I guess maybe that's because we were cloud native. We were never a premise-based system, whereas the competitors were all premise-based system. And then they moved from being on-site premise to being off-site premise. And that's how they called themselves in the cloud. They said they were in the cloud, but really you were just connecting to their premise-based system through the cloud instead of connecting to your own premise based system in the closet, next to the customer service department. So that was the big difference. Anyway, that's the interesting thing about TCN's difference. TCN's IVR just being so flexible, and our customer service being so able to service the customers and service the customers' needs on the spot.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's interesting to learn about the turnaround time for other systems. I know that, with every industry, there's a lot of changes that happen. You have to be really flexible, and it must be really frustrating to be a call center or be a business where, you have to wait, weeks or months or however long it is for a change to occur when you need it to happen yesterday, when, a policy's changed or, compliance rules are switching.
You'd think it would be frustrating, but they're used to it. They're so used to it that's what they expect.
Wow.
So, I don't think they are frustrated because they don't know. And then, when the customers that we've been able to take from the competitors, when they come over to TCN, they're surprised. Like they don't expect us to be able to fix the issues or make the changes that they want as quickly as we can. And frankly, they don't believe that we can do it. They come on board with the expectation that I've oversold, that I've sold them something that TCN can't deliver on. So they're surprised that I told them the truth, that what they're getting is a system that can be changed on the spot, that they can even change it themselves. They don't even have to call in a lot of times, because all our customer service agents do is mimic the login of our clients, go in and make the changes that the client wants. And we have clients that are very tech savvy and like to get in and dig in and do things themselves. They don't even call us. They want to make a change to their call flow. They want to they've got something going on in the morning that they need to put in some sort of an advisory notice at the beginning of the call flow as soon as the customer connects. They can go in, they can make those changes, and then when it's time to take it out, go in and take out the change, go back to the original, and do it all themselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's great. I have never worked in a call center myself, and I've never, been on the back end of it. And so it's interesting to me to think about, that whole process. I've never thought, oh, maybe if I were there, I would have to, go through this long process of reaching out and talking to,
Yeah.
my provider to get certain changes done. And it seems like it should have always been a consumer or a user based system that allows, control, because that's what I would want. I want to be able to control my own technology. I want to be able to control my own business and not have to rely on others to manage things that I could do myself. So
Yeah, but it's
that's
great that we have
great.
the flexibility to do both, because we love teaching our customers how to fish. But if they don't want to touch the fish, then all they have to do is call us, and we're still, right there, Johnny, on the spot, ready to take care of it. We'll do it for them. So we give them the flexibility. Those customers that are afraid of technology, they can call us and we'll do it. If those customers that like to dig in and get their hands dirty and take care of things themselves, and maybe love playing around with technology. I mean, the system is so open that a customer can actually break it if they do the wrong thing. So
Right.
we warn customers, not to go into certain areas, because if you go in, dig into places that you don't understand, you could actually break your account so that your account stops working the way it's supposed to. And that's happened. That has happened.
Well, thank you for explaining, the different systems that are available on the market and how they differ from TCNs and vice versa. That's really insightful. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Um, I wanted to move on to another topic, that is huge in the call center industry and really every industry, regardless of, where you are in the world, or what your business is customer service. I think that, a lot of people, when they hear customer service, they either think of, somebody standing behind the counter ready to, help an individual inside of a store, or they think, oftentimes of the person on the other end of the phone when they call that hotline number and have a question or a problem that they need solved. And we see a lot of outsourcing of customer service to other countries. We see it to other companies that, if your business is small and you need help handling your customer service, we've seen that. So I wanted to go over a little bit about the difference between outsourcing your customer service and bringing the customer service back in-house, and what the pros and cons are of doing either of those or both of them.
Yeah, well, so the pros of outsourcing are usually financial. When an organization is downsizing, or they're cutting expenses to meet corporate goals, then one of the first places they look is customer service. They can get rid of all the employees, which they have to pay unemployment insurance on, provide company insurance, provide company benefits. So the FTE cost can be quite high. So they decide that they can just outsource it, let somebody else handle all of the personnel expenses, and then pay. If you look at it on just an hourly basis, then it's exorbitant. But when you take into account all the other expenses that go along with an FTE, then it can save you quite a bit of money, especially for a big newspaper with several agents. So that's the pro, is being able to save money. Now, the cons to that are your customers can tell the difference. It's a different voice. And I'm not talking about necessarily offshoring your customer service, because I do have clients that are currently sending their customers to other countries to have agents from different countries answering their customer service phone calls. But not even that, because there are a number of organizations right here in the United States that are BPOs taking customer service calls for newspapers. But it's just that local voice. It's not somebody who is familiar with what's in the paper that day, somebody who's familiar with what's going on in the weather right now. It's not somebody who's familiar with the local politics or the events, the things that are going on locally. They can't have personal conversation with the customers that are calling in for customer service, which, even though it's two humans talking to each other, it dehumanizes the whole process, because you just have a transaction happening instead of a conversation. And I think when a customer calls in and they talk to somebody who's local and they can have a conversation, they feel better about the interaction. And when all it is a transaction, if a customer calls in, let's face it, pretty high majority of the people who call into customer service are calling in because there's something that has bothered them enough to take the time to call customer service. So they're not necessarily the happiest individual that they could be when they call. And then when the interaction becomes strictly transactional and not conversational, they can't relate to the person that they're on the phone with, then, doesn't really diffuse the aggravation that they called in to deal with. So having somebody local really makes a difference, and just in terms of having a connection with your customer and being compassionate, being empathetic to the customers, because these are people that share the same community as you do. So in addition to that, one of the pros is I don't think that organizations considered using technology to reduce their expenses, as opposed to just throwing the whole customer service department to the wind and outsourcing the whole thing. Now there's just so much technology that can be used to help reduce those expenses. You can reduce your customer service staff, but still keep some of the folks on staff to handle escalated items, and you can automate so much of those calls. So there are opportunities available that would still allow that. And I think, I don't have data on this, but I believe that if you just employ some technology to reduce the connections and you're able to maintain your customer service in-house, that you would be able to reach the same results. But I'm waiting for the opportunity to actually be able to prove that out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to take a look to see how individual companies or people feel when someone locally reaches out and talks to them versus an outsourced customer service department.
Yeah, I guarantee you this. As soon as I get the opportunity, I'm going to do a case study on it.
Well, great. We look forward to hearing more about that, and we'd love to dive into that topic a little bit further. But
Me too.
for now, we'll move on. We wanted to ask you a little bit about, in relation to customer service and solutions that different organizations can utilize to improve customer service. A lot of companies are turning to chatbots and automated agents to enhance their customer service capabilities. And that it's especially with the advancements in AI recently, there have been many changes in the call center industry because of this. And I was curious to know how TCN incorporates these technologies and what benefits to businesses there could be through things such as chatbots and automated agents.
Yeah, the chatbots has been something that a lot of folks are interested in knowing about. So there's still some fear in implementation. Newspapers aren't on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to customer service technology. The folks that I work with tend to be conservative. Sometimes the folks that I work with directly want to get on the cutting edge, but they've got people higher up the chain who have some reluctance, because they're going to be the person that the most aggravated customers reach out to, and they're going to have to explain it, and they're not ready to do that. They don't want to explain how the newspaper is turned their subscribers' accounts over to robots, right? That's how they're going to think of it, because that's how the customer is going to frame it. It doesn't need to be that way, because using AI, we can identify customers who need to talk to an agent. We can analyze their voice and determine how the conversation is going. With chatbots, yeah, you might be able to determine that you're not actually speaking with a human, but if you're using a chatbot, it's possibly because you don't feel the need to interact with a human. You just feel the need to accomplish something. And a chatbot is extremely efficient in doing that. Now, if you are chatting with an agent, then that agent, and we've all experienced this, where you're in a chat conversation with a customer service agent, and then there's a delay. You type in what you want to say, and then you have to wait and wait and wait for the little dots to start blinking, so that you know that they're finally typing something, and then you wait to read what they say. And that's because typically one customer service agent is handling 5 different chats at the same time. So they're handling 5 customers at the same time, which makes the process really efficient in terms of customer service, because right next to them, they've got somebody on the phone with a customer. That's one agent, one customer. Where with chat, you can have one agent, 5 customers, handling 5 times the volume. So it is efficient as far as that goes, but sometimes it's a little frustrating. With a chatbot, you don't have that. With a chatbot, you're getting instant feedback and activity. So, and the chatbot can be integrated right with the search system, the CRM, so that what the customer needs to do, whether it's, pay their bill, or ask for, redelivery, or to get their digital subscription started, something like that, the chatbot can just take the information from the customer, automatically enter it into their account in the CRM, and handle it all electronically with no human intervention, other than information being fed into it by the customer. So it's exciting, and that's what, going back to what I said earlier, if you just implement a little bit of technology where the customer is willing to use it, and if you look at the data, a significant percentage of customers are willing and even want to avoid human contact, because they would rather just, handle the issue that they calling in or chatting in about. And they don't need to talk to a person, and it's more efficient to do that with an automated system.
Right. I know that TCN has, done a couple of different market research studies, and over the past couple of years, that we've seen an increase in the number of people that want to use chat features, or automated features to get around having to talk to an actual person. And I think that just shows the advancements that we're making in the chatbot or automated agent realm, because we're seeing that they're efficient enough that people continuously want to interact with them. And so I think that that's a great tool. And it seems that all of these things we're talking about are just ways to increase efficiencies within a call center, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of downside to them from what you're telling me. And so that seems like a great option, regardless of, let's say, somebody higher up, or somebody a senior agent or a manager has to handle more upset customers. They're going to have to deal with that either way, whether it's through after a chatbot, and if it has to escalate after that, or from a live agent having to escalate it to them. They're managing that either way. And with the actions that the customers are able to take from the automated agents or the chatbots, it seems that you might be able to reduce the number of angry customers at the end of the day. So that seems like a wonderful solution.
Yeah, I mean, the less time they spend on hold, and the faster they get their question or issue resolved, the happier the customer.
Absolutely. I mean, I know I'm happy when I get my problem solved right away, and I can just click a couple buttons and get it done. Especially, everyone has a busy life right now. We're always running around. We have a million calls, meetings, children, families that we have to attend to, and it's great to be able to just hop on your phone really quickly and get things handled in a timely manner. So I think that's great. Well, thank you for your insights into that, and into chatbots and agents. I think these are all great solutions that can really impact any business for the better. Another crucial aspect of businesses that is really worth considering and looking into for every business is the billing structure that the business has. And TCN has, in my opinion, a very unique billing structure. I was hoping you could maybe dive into that a little bit more and explain, TCN's billing structure, how they handle that, and what should businesses consider when evaluating their options for a call center platform, especially when it comes to billing structures?
Yeah, there's another thing really unique about TCN is that we don't have contracts. And I mean, if you think about it, a contract protects the vendor maybe more than it does the customer because a contract locks you in, and then whether you're happy with what you're getting from the service or not, you don't have any options because you've signed a contract and you have to accept what they offer you because you're locked in for a year or 2 years, maybe 5 years. I talked to one customer today who was locked in for 6 years into a contract. When you start with TCN, you sign a service agreement, and that gives you the protection that you need as a customer, but it also gives you the freedom to hold us accountable. Because if you're not happy with something, you're free to take your business to a competitor, and we have to earn your business every single day. So we take that to the next level. As you know, you asked me about the billing structure. Is we don't charge our customers any flat fees. So I talked to a customer once that had to pay. It was a small newspaper. They had to pay a flat fee of $400 a month. Well, there was an outage and there was a system problem. And, for a week or so, they had very limited access to the system and they didn't use enough of the system services to amount to $400 worth of use, but they had to pay it anyway because it was contractual. So with TCN, it's a pay-as-you-go system. So if you pay for the phone calls, then you're paying for the connected time that you spend on those phone calls. If you pay for chat or SMS, then you're paying per conversation. An SMS message is 150 characters. So you send out a message 150 or less characters, that's one charge. You're not paying a service fee just to use SMS. You don't have to pay a service fee just to use chat. You don't pay anything for the phone services. You just pay for what you use. And that's unique because, I mean, yeah, competitors, when I go through the invoices, when I have the opportunity of some of the competitors, and they're also charging you per minute. But then if you look really closely at the invoices, they're charging you for service fees, they're charging you all these other fees. And then sometimes there's an annual fee that you have to pay just for, renewing the contract or something like that. So those kinds of things are, I think, something that sets TCN apart.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information there, Tony. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely see how, with smaller companies having a pay per use model can be very beneficial, especially in those scenarios where, they might not get the usage if there's an outage, and they can't, pay the fees that come with that. And so, I was just curious, how does that play into larger companies? We see the benefit for smaller ones, but is there a similar benefit, or how does that benefit look for larger companies?
Yeah, so a larger company is going to have possibly a more attractive rate because they're bringing more volume to the table, so they can negotiate rates a little bit more aggressively than a smaller company. So they have that to their advantage. And then the other thing is, if there's any fluctuation, like a large company in Florida will have a lot of fluctuation with their subscribers because in the wintertime, their subscribers are going to go way up as the people from up north go down to Florida, and they want to get the local paper where their winter home is, and those papers circulation numbers go way up in the wintertime, and then in the summertime they go way down as those customers go back up north. So the great thing is that TCN just goes up and down with them. The customers are not paying for the same service during high times as they are during low times. They're paying less when they're making less, and they're paying more when they're making more, which is, the best case scenario for any company. If you were a startup and you were looking for some, service providers to help you with your startup, you want to pay, as little as you can at first because you don't have much income coming in. You're right. Your revenue's not as much as it would be, but as your revenue grows, you can afford to pay more. So you can pay your service provider more because your revenue is going up and your expense can afford to go up. So that's the great thing about how TCN benefits small and large company, is that TCN is sensitive to your business model and your revenue cycles, and we fluctuate with you.
I love that. I think that's amazing that you're able to cater to both smaller companies as well as the larger ones in a way that, is not skewed and favoring one over the other simply because, they're bigger or smaller. And, it benefits everybody.
Right.
I think that's great. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, we're coming up on the end of the session here, and I just had a couple of last questions to ask you. I was curious about, your opinion on what are some emerging trends or technologies in customer service that companies should keep an eye on.
Yeah, we have some really cool stuff that's available. The thing is, so this first one is really better suited towards larger call centers, like if you have, around 20 or more agents. But we have voice analytics, which is a tool that is actually listening to both sides of the conversation. It can flag certain things that you want the system to listen for on both sides. So if you hear the customer say, to stop my subscription, or if you hear the agent say something that is, a little insensitive to the customer, you can come up with any number of phrases, words or phrases that you'd like for the system to listen to, and it will flag those parts of the conversation and send them to the manager so that the manager can monitor what's going on the call floor with all of the agents without listening to all of the agents. They don't have to be standing next to the agents. They're just going to get notifications that agent number 5 is allowing the subscriber to stop without making any effort to save the customer or to resolve the issue. So those are the kinds of things that I think is just so exciting that newspapers never even dreamed of, or customer service call floors never even dreamed of being able to do. They were just recording phone calls at best and going back and reviewing a handful of them at the end of the day or the month or whatever, or maybe once or twice a year when they did employee evaluations. So to be able to listen to the calls, transcribe the calls, pull out certain segments of the recording and play them back, those things, it's just amazing technology that you have available to you on the call floor now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that sounds like it would be very helpful not only to improve, direct customer service, but also for quality assurance in your employees to make sure that you have the people that, fit your culture and fit the type of representative that you believe matches your brand. I think that it's an amazing tool to have.
Yeah, the other thing is that, since COVID, people were already starting to move out of the office and away from home. But since COVID, it's happened even more. And a lot of places are not going back. They're allowing their customer service agents to continue working from home. And one of the advantages to that is customer service agents is one of those jobs that have been difficult to fill. It's been a high turnover kind of job. And when you have high turnover, that means you've got new people coming in all the time, and you've got to retrain those people. If you can use TCN system to allow your customer service agents to work from home, then that's a tool that you have available to you to retain your customer service agents longer. And the longer they stay on, the better training they have, the better skills that they develop. But then the other thing is when you do have turnover, you've got all these tools that are available to you, like the voice analytics that allows you to highlight areas that a new customer service rep needs training on. So, I mean, it's not like Big Brother listening in to all the phone calls. It's actually like your mentor listening in to help you succeed, because that's what floor managers want. They want to help their agents succeed so that they get better stats. Their customers are served better by customer service reps that are well trained, and two, they have customer service agents that stick around longer because they have a more equitable working situation. So there's a lot of advantages to being able to use the technology available on TCN to run a call center.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Speaking of technologies, I have heard a lot about click to pay. I know that TCN has a solution centered around click to pay, and I was wondering if you had any stories or any successes that you've seen with the click to pay solution from TCN.
That's kind of cool. I'm not sure, how cool other people think it is, but I love it. I've played around with it a little bit, and I have clients that are super excited about it. We kind of alternate between the term click to pay and text to pay, but they're both the same thing. The cool thing is it just gives another option for a customer to take care of something that needs to be taken care of. And, they're doing something to extend their business relationship with the company, with the newspaper, with whoever whoever it is that they're paying. So what happens is, they say, I want to pay a bill, and we have a system to ask them if they would like to receive a text message on their phone with a secure link to make the payment. They indicate that they would. So then we send them a link on their phone via SMS. They get that, they tap on it, it opens up a secure payment portal. They enter their information to identify themselves. Once they've done that, then the system will take their payment information, their credit card number, and take that information and process it through the payment processor and enter it into the CRM, into the customer's account, so that the payment is applied to their account, all without any human intervention, just with an option sent to their cell phone, which they carry with them everywhere they go, and they interact with, more hours in a day than they do with human beings sometimes, and that's what they're comfortable with. So that's just such a huge advantage, to be able to use something that people are already comfortable with using, to be able to manage their account with the company that they're dealing with. So Click to Pay is a great tool. Another one that is sort of emerging that some of my customers are really excited about is similar to that, but it's Secure Pay IVR. So this is an agent-assisted IVR. A customer wants to talk to an agent. The agent can help them with the issues that they have, but if they need to make a payment, there's some security risks with having agents ask the customer for their credit card information and then type it into the computer. Companies don't want their agents to have access to credit card information. So they can use an agent-assisted IVR with a customer. The agent and the customer are on the phone. They indicate that they want to make a payment. The agent opens up a line to an IVR. That IVR asks the customer to confirm who they are and allows them to enter the payment information. All the while, the customer service rep is on the phone to guide the customer through the process if the customer needs assistance, but the customer service agent can't hear what's going on, what's being entered into the phone in the IVR. So they can't hear the credit card information being entered in there. They just know that the customer is interacting with the IVR. So it's really cool that you can take the liability out of the hands of your customer service reps and keep a secure transaction available to your customer, while still giving them access to a live human being to help them through the process, which is what the customer, in those cases wanted. They wanted to talk to a person.
Yeah, that's really neat, Tony. I think that it's a great asset for companies to be able to rely on technology to make sure that they remain compliant. And I think it will take a lot of stress and provide a lot of relief to managers and call center owners. And I wish we had more time to talk about all the new technologies that are emerging. Is there anything else last minute you want to bring up or talk about, or you feel very strongly about in terms of, call center software, technology, customer service, anything that we've talked about today?
I'm kind of excited about one of my customers that has really seen the vision of what they can do on TCN. Can I take a minute to kind of lay out what they've done?
Of course, I'd love to hear it.
So it's a customer that has a nationwide presence. They've got newspapers in, I don't know how many of the 50 states, but they've got a lot of newspapers. Some of them are a little bit bigger than others. None of them are huge. They're all relatively small. But when they came to us, I don't remember how many years ago, they were still taking all their own customer service calls at each location. So each location had between 1 and 5 customer service agents that were taking the calls. And they came to TCN. They wanted to automate that and add some accountability to that. So we were able to, add the IVR so that they gave the customers the option to self-serve if that's what they wanted to do. And then in other cases, they could be linked to a customer service agent that would have the tools available through TCN Agent Operator. It gave them all the tools on the system to hold the agents accountable, to guide the agents through the process of helping the customer. So those things were working great. But again, it was, a handful of agents at several properties. As they became more and more comfortable with the system and more familiar with the advantages that come with TCN, they started pulling customer service reps together. So first it was regionally. They would move all the customer service agents to one regional location in the country and take care of that region of customers with customer service agents in that region. And then ultimately, finally, they have now pulled all of their customer service agents into one location corporate wide, so that customers calling from all over the United States are being answered in this one corporate location by customer service agents who are, managed, monitored, trained, all by the same people. So they don't have all these different things going on in the different properties or the different regions. They're all getting the same training, the same management, and using the same tools. So they've really seen the vision. And then they've taken it one step further since they've really perfected their use of the technology. And now they've gone out and they're selling the service to other newspapers who want to outsource their customer service. So that's the vision that I have been trying to sell to newspapers for the last 5 years, is that this doesn't have to be an expense. This can be a revenue generator. This can be a moneymaker. You've got your neighboring newspapers that doesn't make sense for them to keep customer service on site anymore. They've only got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 agents. Take those on. You can take those customer service calls. You've already got the agents in place. You can just add a couple more hours to the week, and you can add a whole new revenue stream to your company. And I'm just so excited about this customer that has opted to do this and has taken TCN's technology and started outsourcing the opportunity that they have to do for other newspapers what they're doing for their own customers.
I'm so impressed with, the initiative, first of all, that it took for them to do that, and the vision. It's crazy to think of, what the possibilities are when you have the technology to back it.
Yeah, it was an evolution. I mean, honestly, it was an evolution. They started out, really small and just trying to become comfortable with introducing technology to the process, starting out with. But then as they got more and more comfortable with it, they just opened up their eyes to the opportunities that were available.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights and your expertise. And I really appreciate it. And I know that our listeners are going to really appreciate it. And I hope to hear more about the technologies that TCN is providing and how, different companies utilize technology in different ways. It can be inspiring to whomever's listening. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. I got to combine my two passions of talking about newspapers and talking about technology. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to TCN's CloudCast. We hope you gained valuable insights and perspectives on the ever-evolving world of call center software. Don't forget to subscribe for future episodes as we continue to explore cutting-edge trends and innovations. And once again, thank you for listening.